Okay, folks, we're back and we're going to continue with section 8. Vomit again. You guys can call me also Mo. It's actually fine. So, look, what I'm going to be doing is removing Active Directory. I want to show you what's going to happen when I demote a domain controller. Now, remember, we actually have two domains. We have one tree. The tree has the first domain, which is the parent, as udemy.local, and the second domain, which is a child domain, it's support.udemy.local. So I have one forest, one tree, and two domains. What's going to happen when I demote? Why am I doing this? I want to explain more on what is a standalone server versus a member server versus a domain controller, right? That's what I'm trying to lead to. So watch this. I'm going to go to my third server, which is my child domain. I only have one domain controller hosted here. So watch this. So let me go ahead and continue. So if I go to manage, look, at the moment, it's actually a domain controller. All right. So if I click on this, it tells me it's a DC, see support.udemy.local. And if I go to tools, let me just show you something. And I open this time domains and trusts. There's an automatic trust between the parent and the child. Look, I see the parent and I see the child. All right. So if I right click on the parent and I choose properties, I go to the trust tab, it shows me the child. Mhm. And if I go to the child and I choose properties and I go to the trust, it shows me the parent, right? Trust, which means they automatically trust each other. It's automatically established. I did not have to establish that trust, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to manage, remove roles and features. Remember, there's only one DC in this domain, and I can show you that in here, users and computers. So if I go to domain controllers, there's only one, right? It doesn't have a replica. So what I'm going to do is next and remove the check mark from Active Directory domain services, right? Look what's going to tell me. You cannot remove the role because it's hosting Active Directory. So the first thing that I have to do is demote the domain controller. So I'm going to click on that. See, I don't do force removal. I like to cover everything with you folks. If I do force removal, it's like suicide. It's like the parents didn't even know that the child is actually gone. So I want to make sure they sync with each other. But I have to say it's the last domain controller in the domain. If I try to go with these credentials, it's not going to work because I need to have enterprise admin rights to remove a new domain. So I'm going to click on change and put Udemy, right, slash administrator, and then the password. And go next. Proceed with removal, right? Host the following. So I'm going to go next and remove DNS. I could say remove everything. So DNS is actually gone. And this is also Udemy slash administrator. I need to have enterprise admin rights. And let me put the actual password and go next. Now, look, it's telling me about a new password. Guess what? My second domain, which is the child domain, does not have a replica. So this is the last domain controller in the domain. When I demote, in other words, removing Active Directory from it, it will become a standalone server, like a worker. It's like a fresh installation. So this is the password for the local machine right now. Okay, just to let you know. So I'm going to go next and demote. And let's give it a moment. It should not take long. After it's done, it's going to proceed with an actual restart. And after that, I could remove the actual role that I was referring to, which is Active Directory domain services, right? That's what's going to happen. So stopping services, it's not going to take not even 10 seconds. And it should be actually being removed. So let's see, it should restart in a few moments. All right. And after the restart, this is actually a standalone server. It's not a member server, which means it's not part of the domain since it's the last domain controller in the domain, right? It's the last domain controller in the domain itself. So after this, it will just go ahead and give it an actual restart. And my local password is the same one. I just left it actually the same. So this domain is gone. So my forest has only what one tree, and my tree only has one domain. Right. So there you go. Finished. Everything looks good. It's going to restart. I could just click close. It will restart on its own, and this will not take long. And I could prove to you that this server is a standalone server. That means it's a work group, which means it's a peer-to-peer network. right? That's what it means. It's a peer-to-peer network. So let's give this a moment. And after this, I could actually remove the role, which is called Active Directory Domain Services. So let's give this a moment. It should not take long, guys. I don't want to pause the video because look, it's automatically up there. See, it doesn't take long when it's a standalone. Let me just log on. See, I don't see any domains right now. All right. And let me just log on. So remember, when you actually click on Tools in Server Manager, and if you see Active Directory, it doesn't mean that it's an actual domain controller, right? It doesn't mean it's a domain controller. Let's remember that, all right? So let's wait for Server Manager to populate, and you'll see it's a standalone server, which means it's a work group. I only can manage it locally from the machine itself, right? That's what it means. So let me go to local server. And look what it says, workgroup. It's a peer-to-peer network. So now I could go to tools. If I open Active Directory, I cannot do anything. It's going to give me an error message. It's just the RSAT is actually installed, right? So I need to go to manage, remove roles and features, and go next, and remove the check mark from Active Directory domain services, right? Because it's no longer needed here. And then also I want to remove the check mark from DNS. So these are the steps to demote or remove Active Directory from an actual domain that doesn't have replicas. And I'm going to put a check mark to restart when it's done and click on remove. All right. This should not take long. And after this is done, it's going to restart. Then this server is just a standalone server. It's a work group. It's like, I just installed it fresh from scratch, right? So we actually did what we needed to do with this actual server. So after the role is removed, it's going to restart on its own because I did put a check mark in the box to request a reboot when it's actually done. Watch this. Let's take a look and see what's going to happen on the behavior of this server. After the restart, it should not take long, all right? This will not actually take long at all. Let's keep that in mind because it's not really hosting anything right now, right? It's not hosting any type of service. It just has the suffix. Look what it says. Windows 2019-3.support.udemy.local. I just have to change the suffix. It doesn't really mean anything. This is just a fully qualified domain name, as you see, right? It's a fully qualified domain name. There you go. Restarting. Looks good, right? So it's removing some features, removing some roles, and it's a standalone server, and this looks perfect to us. That's how it should be. So this is my third server. It's a standalone server. What I'm going to do when I reach the logon screen, I'm just going to suspend this virtual machine. And we're actually done with this lecture. So we're going to continue with the next lecture. And this time, we're going to be demoting an actual replica, which is server two. And I'm going to discuss what's going to happen for each one of them, right? But I want to show you over here, at least when I log in, it's going to actually continue removing the role itself. So when you actually remove a role and it tells you to restart, it's going to continue to remove the role once you log on. So you have to log on, of course. And after you log on, it will actually continue to remove the role itself. So let's give this a few more seconds and see where it goes from here. All right, this looks good. And let me log on. All right, there we go. Oh, looks like I put the wrong password. And let me just go. There you go. All right. And watch this. And it should continue removing the role on its own. So it should populate in a few seconds. Because right now, when I go to tools, right, watch this. Let me just show you. See, it's removing. So I'm not going to see Active Directory or any of that. Users and computers or any of that is actually gone. Right? There you go. Almost done. Let's give it a few more seconds and it should be finishing up. All right. I always like dot local. Like internally, guys, inside an organization, always do dot local, right? That's what you want to do. You want to always make sure it's dot local. Not .com, not .edu, not .org. So nobody can reach you from outside. It's good for security when I make it as not local. There you go. That's fine. I'm good. So I'm going to suspend this. Okay. And I'm just going to stick with server one and server two. Server three should be actually gone. So we're going to be removing Active Directory from the second server when we come back to our next lecture. Still part of Section 8. So, folks, we'll see you guys in a moment. All right, guys, later then. Bye.